Alex here with a legal nuts and bolts video on the record on appeal. I decided to go ahead and do this video when I looked at a recent appeal I was trying to help somebody with, and they tried to file a bunch of exhibits in the Supreme Court of Nevada, and you can't do that. An appeal, let me take a few steps back. First off, please watch the videos filing an appeal and standard of review to sort of kind of get you caught up to speed as to what an appeal is and how it works. I will say this. It's not a do-over. You don't get to go into the appellate court and argue all the same things that you argued before, in the sense that you want them to sort of have a different opinion that your lower judge had and therefore override your lower judge based on their opinion being different. You do get to go to the appellate court and say, my lower judge made this very specific mistake, and because of this very specific mistake, I want you guys, the panel, because you have to watch those videos if you want to understand how appeals work and what a panel is. I want this panel to reverse that decision because that mistake that I pointed out affected the outcome of my case. When you're thinking about it in that sense, when you're thinking about it as pointing out a mistake, you have to realize that you're pointing at specific documentation and transcripts that occurred at the time that the decision, whatever decision it was that was rendered against you, was rendered. You're not going up there and arguing the same thing and bringing in all this new evidence. You can only rely on the evidence that was available at the time the judge made their mistake and at the time the judge heard the testimony of the witnesses. That's why when an appeal is filed, the record is sent up from the lower court, or if you're an attorney, you'll be preparing your own appendix, which will consist of the papers and pleadings filed in the lower court. And that's why the transcripts are transcripts of the hearings that occurred in the lower court. They're not transcripts of brand new stuff that's happened after the decision was rendered. The appellate court will then look at those papers, those pleadings, and those transcripts to determine whether or not that lower judge made a mistake. So those papers that are part of the record and those transcripts, those are all considered the record on appeal. That is what you are confined to on appeal. I hope this video isn't confusing people, and I hope it's helpful. I just know that a lot of people struggle with this concept. A lot of people, they want to go to the next court, to the higher court, and they feel like they're upset because they lost. And they want to try much, much harder now because they lost. And so it's like, I can't believe I lost. It's not fair. And all of a sudden now I want to bring up everything. Everything that I didn't bring up down there, I'm going to bring up here. All the emails that I left out, all the photos that I left out, the witnesses that I could have brought and should have brought but didn't bring. And they want to bring all this stuff up to the Supreme Court and see my judge was wrong because all this other stuff was available. It's just he didn't have it at the time to consider. But I have it now, so please consider it and reverse the decision of the lower court. They don't do that. Anything that you want to be considered on appeal has to be raised for the first instance in the lower court, with very few rare exceptions, and I think I mentioned that in some of my previous videos. For example, subject matter jurisdiction arguments. If you forget to bring those up in the lower court, you are allowed to bring those up in the appellate court. And I won't bring up any other examples. If you want to look into them, you can. But I'm not trying to get into that in this video. I'm just trying to explain what the record on appeal is and why it is so crucial to understand that this thing is a fixed, sealed box that you can't stuff any extra thing into. When you file your appeal, you're stuck referring to anything that's on or that's in the record on appeal. I hope the video is useful to some people. I'm not sure if some of my viewers have ever kind of tripped over this rock in the past, tried to attach exhibits or add an appendix with a bunch of extra stuff and file it in the Supreme Court, and it got rejected or was stricken later on. Hopefully that's not happened to anyone. Hopefully people understand why it's so crucial for you to bring issues to your family judges or whatever judge, whatever kind of court case you have. It's important that you bring issues to their attention when you're in their court, because if something goes wrong and you file an appeal, you can't bring any new stuff into it. The record on appeal is a confined, sealed, controlled stack of papers and transcripts that you cannot add to later on. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I'm not really sure what other angles I can cover on this topic. I just want to let people know that this was a thing, that this is a thing, what it's called, the record on appeal, and why it works the way it works. So with that, I'll go ahead and end this video.